Expecting a couple of phone calls like that coming up today. Welcome back into the Paul Finebaum Show. 4 hours locked and loaded for you. Peter Burns here with the birthday boy, John Eagles Fly High Penn State apologist Hayes.
I got the best birthday present that I could ever ask for today.
What in the world was that?
The Philadelphia Eagles reported to training camp.
Here's what we're going to do, Finebombers. 855-242-PAUL. I'm not going to make you sing John Hayes' happy birthday. That's not going to happen. There it is.
Oh, let's
But you do get a little Eagles love. Finished third in the NFC East, much like
touchdown,
Jim Harbaugh finishes tied for third in his Big Ten.
Hit 'em high. Wow, this really is making my day.
Is this your greatest birthday ever so far?
Fly, Eagles fly on the road to victory. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
Unbelievable. That's how we're going to lead off. That's how today is going to go. I want to tell you here, I called this when I used to do radio in Denver. By the way, Peter Burns filling in for Mr. Paul Finebaum. You can hit me up on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. When I used to host radio on Thursdays in Denver and in San Antonio, we used to do no-show prep Thursdays, right? To where by the end of the week, by Thursday, you had traditionally exhausted every single thing that you wanted to talk about, especially during football season, because it's like, how many times can I break down the Alabama offensive line going up against Florida State's D-line and what the first 10 plays are going to be scripted, right? We got 700 more hours of coverage to do that. And so we do a thing called No Show Prep Thursdays, to where you just came in and we just had fun. I had no idea what was going to happen. The callers took us directions. We zigged, we zagged. Hell, we just played the Eagles fight song. Not happy about it, but it just happened. Enjoy it. So I'm going to let you take us any place we want to go today. We do have a couple of guests. One of the stories we've been following it's going into a week now, but there continues to be kind of it's like the Russia-Trump story. It's like the drip, drip, drip of college football is the story coming out of Oxford. Down in Ole Miss, Dan Wolken has kind of been on that story from day one, even before all the reports have come on. He was working on it. USA Today. He's going to join us at 3:30. Because yesterday a lot of people took umbrage to the fact that I said Houston Nutt had become kind of, from a man that went from trying to clear his name, which I get. Man, if somebody kind of puts me in a bad spot, I want to clear my name. But where does the pound of flesh that you get stop to the point of kind of running up the score and kind of looking almost like a little bit of an ambulance chaser? So I said that because I'm confused why Houston Nutt now, they're trying to find these burner phones in Yuma, Arizona. It's like it
feels like bloodlust.
I feel like that's the case, and I feel like Houston Nutt is a petty enough person that he would continue to do that. But I want to hear both sides of it. So I'm going to have Dan Wolken on, who says, hold up, maybe there is a little bit something more to this that I'm not understanding. I got no problem going out on a limb. This, Finebombers, when I come in on the Finebaum Show, I traditionally upset a lot of people. But I'm also willing to hear the other side of it. That's the only way you're going to learn. Anybody that sits on a pulpit and just says this is the way it is one of the most idiotic people that you can have. You have to have some type of conversation. So Dan Wolken's going to come on 3:30 today. USA Today, Eastern. It's in about 25 minutes. He's going to give us an update on that. Aaron Suttles, Tuscaloosa News. Great karaoke guy. I saw him doing Flow Rider and a couple of different things at SEC Media Days. Yeah, he was pretty solid. Bubba Sparks, he was decent. He's going to join us at 4 o'clock. We're going to replay a little bit part of the Nick Saban interview we had because, not that it was brand new news, but the way Coach Saban talked about that Tua will play, Tua has to play this year. I want to clarify what happened with that. South Carolina opens up camp. Josh Kendall from the state will join us at 4:30 Eastern. Kevin Skarbinski, one of the best, I think, in the biz, always reminds me of my old co-host Mark Kisla in Denver Post. He finds a way to get that screwdriver and kind of dig it into your ribs. And I think he's got some great opinions. We're going to talk about Alabama, talk about Auburn with him. And then Ross Dellinger, the world's worst pool player ever, is going to join us. He's from the Advocate in Baton Rouge. I kid with Ross because he's actually pretty good. We'll have some time with that. So we're going to talk about LSU coming up as well. 855-242-7285. And don't forget, if you're calling into the show, you have to wish John Hayes a happy 33rd birthday. Because how many times are you going to turn 33 in life, right? Did I get the number right, Hayes?
This is my last year of my 20s. Don't ruin it for me. I turned 29 today.
29. And that's all you've accomplished is become the producer of this show at 29. You know they have those lists for the top 30 underneath 30?
Yeah.
You got no shot at that, right?
I
top 40 under 40, possibly. You got 10 years to do something with your life.
When I was playing baseball at about 15, I made the top 15 under 15 list.
Come on, really? Was that like in your county? Is that like...
You mentioned pool. I wanted to bring this up.
Yes.
You talked about Ross Dellinger playing pool. You know who is the best pool player involved with the Finebaum show? Take one guess. It's caller.
I would like to say it's Millie, but I don't think that Millie's going to be the person. Who do I want to say? Jim in Tuscaloosa?
You nailed it.
Come on, really?
Jim in Tuscaloosa.
Now, have you actually seen this, or is this like the stories that we get from Jim in Tuscaloosa, who I love?
It's I don't want to say it's a myth because I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Jim will tell you that he used to run the
Jim
pool
told me
halls
he's also shot like
Tuscaloosa.
63 at Augusta National, too. Twice. Once left-handed, once right-handed. All right. I would imagine Jim would be that way. Let's get to your phone calls right now. Coleman, Alabama. What's up, Heath?
Hey, what's going on? Happy birthday, John.
Thank you.
Hey, just a question for you guys. What do you think about the possibility of Notre Dame playing Auburn in a football game?
I'd love it. I don't think Notre Dame would want to do it because they'd get their rear kicked. I mean, I think we're going to see that, right? Is it Georgia? Second week of the season? Is that the game that's headed out?
Notre Dame, Georgia.
Notre Dame, Georgia.
In South Bend.
In South Bend. I can't wait for it. I think after
Georgia.
That'd
be great.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. I think after Georgia absolutely destroys them right in front of Touchdown Jesus, and Touchdown Jesus just weeps. Nick Chubb and Sony Michel just embarrassed the Irish, as Mark Kubiak's probably going to come in here any minute now. I don't know. I mean, listen, if I'm Notre Dame, I get it. I would just have the patsies that you've had on the schedule for the last couple of years, just continue to do that, because that's the only way you continue to be relevant is the fact that you had the old NBC television contract. But yeah, I don't think they would want any piece of Auburn. I'd love to see it, Heath, but Auburn would destroy them.
I talked to Danny Sheridan, the world-renowned handicapper, about the Georgia-Notre Dame game this year. We were having a discussion on the show. What is the line heading into that game? Most people think Georgia is going to blow the doors off of Notre Dame. Greg McElroy at SEC Media Days talked about how Georgia was going to win by 21 points.
Do you know the line right now? Because I want to guess it.
I do.
Because I don't know. I haven't heard it.
Well, this is, according to Danny Sheridan, the number that he put out for this game.
So I'm assuming to be in North Bend, you're going to get 3 points. The home team always gets 3 points when you're looking at odds, right? So you start with Notre Dame's going to get 3 points. I say it may be 4 just because it's Notre Dame, right? There is the wow factor of going up to South Bend. I get that. It is a storied franchise, right? So 4 points. I think that Georgia is at least 2 touchdowns better.
Okay.
Maybe more, depending on what Jacob Eason can get his story together during training camp. I'm going to say 14 minus the 6. I'm going to say they're going to be an 8.5 point favorite against Notre Dame.
Because of the home field advantage in South Bend, Danny Sheridan made Notre Dame a 2-point favorite.
No, come on. Yes. Go to the bank right now. Are you kidding me?
A 2-point
2-point favorite?
Yes.
You're going to let Kirby Smart go in there. They're going to – listen, I'm not one to advocate this at all because I don't bet. I'm not a gambling man. You know this. However, if I did happen to have money and I could put it on Georgia as an underdog, oh, my gosh.
On a neutral
I'm going to go get a second mortgage on my house today. That's it.
On a neutral field.
Fannie Mae's, whatever it is.
Danny would have made Georgia a favorite on a neutral field. And in Athens,
they're coming off, what, a 4-8 season?
Georgia would have been a 4-point favorite in Athens. So, at this point, we're going into week 2 thinking that Georgia's an underdog.
My daughter's not born, but I think I'm going to pay for her college education on that game.
And if you think that blows your mind, wait until Mr. Mark Kubiak gets in here and talks to you about what he thinks about that football game.
Oh, gosh. I can't wait for that. 855-242, Paul's the number. Millbrook, Alabama. Trotsky, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, John, happy birthday. You know today's my birthday too, man.
Birthday twins. Happy birthday, Trotsky.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I wanted to ask you if you could have one birthday sports wish. Now, it has to be sports related. What would you want for your birthday?
Well, it's a great question, and if you heard the start of the show, it's a very simple answer. An Eagles Super Bowl. An Eagles Super Bowl W.
That's a fair one.
Yeah.
I guess. So you would take, just real quick, because the Finebaum callers know who you are, you would take a Eagles Super Bowl over a Penn State national championship?
Certainly would.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Penn State's won a national championship before. The Eagles have never won the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
It's a black eye on the franchise. Any argument you get in about the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys ends with the same thing. You've never won a Super Bowl.
All right, well, I'll throw you this question. Trotsky, it is your birthday. If you had to hang out with one SEC coach today on your birthday, no holds barred, out of any of the 14 right now, who are you taking?
It's got to be, of course, the greatest one of all time, Nick Saban.
You're rolling with Saban, okay?
Yeah, I would have to just to get around Nick. I would like to see if Nick Saban is as a lot of people say, behind closed doors, he's like a funny guy. So I just like to get with him and just see what type of person he is away from the football field.
Hang out at the lake.
There it is. They would hang out on the lake and lose 150,000 earrings like Julio Jones. All right. Trotsky, happy birthday to you. Hayes, mediocre birthday to you. 855-242-PAUL, Notre Dame apologist Mark Kubiak is going to join us because I still think that Georgia should be at least a 10-point favorite in that game. He'll try to talk me down on it. And then I-Man is on hold as well, too. Got to get to that call. Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum. Welcome back to the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns. It's not my birthday. It is John Hayes' birthday. 34 years old. Pretty amazing stuff.
It's going to get a year older
every segment. You're going to be 47 by the end of this show. Happy 29th birthday, John Hayes, producer extraordinaire here for the Finebaum Show. Another one of the
thank you.
The big dogs here. Mark Kubiak on vacation came in just for this show. It was amazing. You were driving by the studios. You heard me say that I'm going to take a second mortgage. Actually, back up. Hypothetically speaking, if I did gamble,
yes,
I would have taken a second mortgage on my home here next to the SEC Network studios and placed it all on Georgia as an underdog going into Notre Dame. You actually stopped.
Turned around, threw it in reverse, and came back here to talk to you about this because I want to know why.
Okay.
I've watched you cram for 4 minutes on your Notre Dame research, so this should be good.
Guys, listen, I think Lou Holtz is doing a fantastic job up there. I mean, listen, I think he's solid. I go back and look at not just the power of Georgia football, but more of what Notre Dame. I mean, you're coming off a 4-8 season last year, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's no doubt that teams can rebound. I get it. I don't know if Brian Kelly can rebound that quickly. Now, here's the deal. My big issue is that you guys were 72nd against the run last year. What do you think Georgia can do with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel?
And we lost our second-string defensive tackle for the year, Daniel Cage. So now we're really thin across the defensive line, which is their weakness to begin with.
However,
Brian Kelly went out in the offseason, and what he did was he fired – everybody always laughs at Kelly because he throws all his coaches and players under the bus, or that's his perception, right?
But it was kind of true last year.
Fair, but you had to make some changes. So we got a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, and new special teams coach. Now,
basically to save his job.
Had to. This is it.
The Wolves are coming here. I'll throw you the slow people behind that. You eat these guys, and I stay alive for one more year.
Now, yes, last year was terrible. They looked awful across the board on every aspect. But in 2015, they were pretty good, right?
Yep.
They averaged over 400 yards against every team except one.
USC?
Wake Forest. You know who their defensive coordinator was?
Who's the defensive coordinator now?
Mike Elko. So we found what was working against his offense and brought him in as the defensive coordinator. Now, I don't know if that's going to make a difference, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
Right.
Is it not?
I get it, but it's baffling to me how I think a Georgia team that's talented enough to win the SEC
Okay, so this
East,
Georgia team that we've talked about, right?
Yes.
This team that almost lost to Nicholls State.
That's correct.
Lost to Vanderbilt, right? And struggled keeping teams under 20 points all year last year.
Okay,
right now, all those guys are back. Everybody gets a little bit older with age, but are we to assume that an offense that even last year when Notre Dame's offense wasn't as great, still wasn't bad, is going to all of a sudden fall flat on its face?
Yes, because I think Kirby has another year, and I think the first year
but against a Notre Dame offense that has a quarterback that was a top 50 quarterback 2 years ago, in Brandon Wimbush, right? Pretty good running backs, top 4-star recruit running backs. Guys run for 1,800 yards in 2 years.
Pretty good at Notre Dame is average in the SEC. How many times do we have to go over this? That's just the case. I can go back and look at the pretty good Notre Dame team going up against a pretty decent Alabama team, and it was the most boring national championship I've ever seen in my life.
Right, because this is what Georgia fans.
It was Dramamine of college football.
This is what Georgia fans have, because if they beat Alabama, they would have easily beat Notre Dame in 2012. That argument's been going on for 5 years. That's Georgia's biggest win in the last 5 years, beating Notre Dame in their mythical national championship game.
And guess what? Now you have a new one. Now you have a new head coach, and it's going to be a different.
Right.
Brady. Maybe Brady Quinn, because he's calling from South Bend, Indiana. Are you Brady Quinn?
No, it's not Brady Quinn.
Okay.
It's a homer from the north, not the south. My question is, do you think that it's going to walk all over Notre Dame?
I think it'll be an embarrassment for Notre Dame football, and I think that it will start the conversation of how Brian Kelly is not the right guy for that position. That's correct, yes. I think that's what Kirby Smart does. Kirby Smart takes the Bulldogs in there, and it's just a trouncing. I'm sorry.
There's not many guys the right fit for Notre Dame in the last decade or 20 years. But if Georgia's going to be so good, you're saying Notre Dame running game is average.
He doesn't know. I doesn't know Brady. Paul, Peter here doesn't know about Mike McGlinchey and the top two offensive linemen on the left side that are better than anybody else in the SEC.
I don't
learn about them, but
I don't because what's going to happen? But the question is how much is Notre Dame going to be able to run the ball when they're down 3 touchdowns early? That's the biggest concern for me. You can have the best running backs in the country, but whenever you get down 21-0 for the Georgia Bulldogs, you're not able to do it.
There's a very good chance Georgia wins.
That's a big if. But to my point, you're saying Notre Dame would be an average running team in the SEC. Didn't they go into South Carolina 2 years ago and pretty much handle Clemson pretty easily, except for the monsoon, and should have won the game?
Okay.
And then the next year, South Carolina turns around and beats Alabama for the national championship. You don't think Notre Dame could be somewhat competitive against an average Georgia team in the SEC East?
No, not a Notre Dame team that's coming on off of a 4-8 season versus a vastly improved Kirby Smart team. I just don't think I don't see it happening whatsoever.
How is Notre Dame not vastly improved?
To that same level? To the same level? I mean you're 4-8 mailing an independent. I understood if you were 4-8 and you played in a big boy conference like the SEC, I could understand it. I could say, you know what, you could turn it around. But that's not going to happen.
In front of us right now, I know you guys can't see because we're on radio, but there's a Phil Steele magazine.
Yes.
Last year, Phil Steele had Notre Dame's schedule ranked 12th toughest in the country.
And guess what? They faltered. Unbelievably bad.
It was a tough schedule.
Right.
It's a tough schedule.
And it gets tougher playing against Georgia this year.
So, but the excuse that they can't do it against an SEC team or an SEC schedule is false because they do it against a tougher schedule. Week in and week out. They don't play Mercer.
Man, come save this.
They don't play Mercer.
Tell the Notre Dame apologist here that Georgia would absolutely is going to embarrass the Irish.
They're like
second
Nickel
week of the
State,
season.
I guess.
Man.
Well, touchdown Jesus. He won't be walking on waters, but he'll have a sandal full of tears.
He's going to need to turn a lot of water into wine as well, too, my friend.
And there's going to be a lot of drinking going. There's going to be some serious drinking going on. And you got to love it when you get some guy coming on as a Notre Dame apologist like that last caller with a walks that kid. Probably got hot dog and a soda. We don't have sodas in the South. We have Cokes. But I'm Peter Burns. Hello, and how are you today? And happy birthday, John.
Thank you.
It was just, and Paul Finebaum's got a birthday right here in a day or two, give or take, or something.
Now would be a good time to say how strange it is, man. It's my birthday today. It was Coop's birthday last Friday, and Paul's birthday. Paul, Mark, and our birthdays are within like 7 days.
That's how we do staffing to keep it efficient here at ESPN. We just get everybody's birthday and we just pile everybody
it's one
together.
Cake. It's strange.
Well, see, it was no big deal when I had my birthday, but I will tell you all happy birthday, and I hope you have a good one. And Peter Burns, happy birthday to your new daughter when she gets it.
October 21st, roughly around that time. Thank you, man.
Did Millie really stay on hold for 3 hours and 15 minutes?
You see, the thing is, Millie, when she calls in...
The thing of it is...
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
No. Millie calls in, man, so that's her way to listen to the program. That's how dedicated she is to this program.
And I bet that phone has a cord hooked up to the wall, too. That's a determined. That is determined stalking at its finest. Give that woman a medal. You know, and I'm a good listener, Peter Burns. And we were talking about you were talking about the best food player on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Jim. We call him Jim of Soda Fats. Now, when Jim tells this story, he's like 5 or 6 years old, hanging out at the local pool hall, and he's winning cigarettes for bets. Now, this 5 or 6 year old kid is down at the local pool hall all hours of the day and night winning cigarettes.
Roll damn tide.
Jim of Soda Fats. Now, when I hear that story and break it down, it sounds like he was maybe a 15 or 16-year-old boy at the boarding school where there's 5-year-olds in the same class as 35-year-olds. And Jim's in the rec room, and he's winning cigarettes from those kids, not down at the local pool hall. You know, when he says local pool hall, he meant the rec room at the boarding school where he was sent to board. And that meant to stay. You know, because in the South, we put crazy on the back porch and not always in public, but it is a newer day and time, so we do bring crazy to the front porch with the glasses.
All right, I'm up. Hold on. I'm up against a hard break here. I'm going to give you your outro here. So, what your final thought right now? Because I got to roll. What is it?
Oh, Auburn's going to kick the living hell out of Alabama. Florida State's going to kick that ass. Auburn's going to kick that ass. And you know what that'll be? That'll be booking Saban ass kicking.
855-242-PAUL is the phone number. At Peter Burns, ESPN. More of your phone calls coming up next. Jim in Tuscaloosa, you're on the clock.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Welcome back to the Paul Finebaum Show, Campus Conversation Takeover Week. I'm Peter Burns. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. Of course, many of you, if you like college football, you've already downloaded. Over the last couple of years, it was called, what was it called? Championship Drive, right?
That's right.
Yeah, Championship Drive podcast, and now it's Campus Conversation. If you already had downloaded that podcast, nothing changes. It's the same. It's just we added a couple more voices. I'll be on it this year. Matt Schick will be on it. Heather Dinich, Ivan Mazel. We've got a litany. Ryan McGee. I mean, it's a bunch of us. We all throw it together. We have some fun. Starting next week, we'll start doing one kind of weekly or a couple times a week, and then starting, I believe, the 26th, it'll be daily. So make sure, if you haven't downloaded yet, Campus Conversation, check it out. I always like to have a conversation with this guy of USA Today. Dan Wolken joins us on the Paul Finebaum Show. Dan, I'm trying to phrase this properly here. What's worse, the emails you get from fans, the Twitter messages, or the text messages from coaches? What do you get the most vitriol and hate from?
Oh, coaches never text me anything bad. Coaches get it for the most part, and I think actually what's funny is what you get from coaches is more like gossip about other coaches. That's what you get from coaches. From fans, I really don't pay that much attention to anything. You see the Twitter messages, and sometimes if I'm, not doing a whole lot, or I'm at the gym and I'm in between sets or something like that, maybe I'll respond to a couple. But for the most part, you just got to let that stuff go.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I would imagine a lot of it has been Ole Miss fans lately. You've been on this story for quite a while with everything that's happening in Oxford for, I guess, as the world turns here in the last week or so. You and I had a brief discussion offline yesterday, and I wanted to clarify. I looked at Houston Nutt saying, hey, you got your pound of flesh. Hugh Freeze is no longer there. I didn't understand how his lawyer looking into burner phones in Yuma, Arizona helps his case. I just frankly didn't get it, and I thought it was a little ambulance chasing and running up the score at this point. Is there a different viewpoint that I'm missing here?
Well, look, at this point in this proceeding, there's no question that Houston Nutt is looking for a settlement. And I think that what you've got now is an attorney who is really trying to crank up the pressure on Ole Miss, and I think there's a few volleys going back and forth between those two sides, and there's probably going to be some more. But as far as I know, up to this point, Ole Miss has not really wanted to engage on writing a check to make all this go away, which I don't know if that's a very good strategy based on the havoc that has already been wreaked by this attorney. And I think that yesterday, when he talks about more FOIA requests, when I say FOIA, I mean Mississippi Public Records Act requests, more digging into stuff. And look, here's what's going on is, does Ole Miss know what they don't know? If more stuff gets uncovered in this whole deal, is that something they want to deal with? Because, they've got a lot on their plate right now. They've got the NCAA thing. They've got a new coach and eventually a coaching search.
No, they have a football season to prepare. Yeah, exactly. And
they would like
all
to
of
wrap all this up. Yeah, and so how much more do they really want to deal with this? Because let me tell you something. This guy, Thomas Mars, is not going away.
Well, and my question is and that's what I had put it out yesterday, when they're looking at other burner phones and something with Yuma, Arizona, and they're still on this hunt. Are they on the hunt to clear Houston Nutt's name, or is this more to disparage Hugh Freeze? That's where I'm trying to find out what's the advantage or what's their end game here.
Life is leverage, and I think that the position that Ole Miss is taking up to this point with the Houston Nutt situation is that Houston Nutt will not be able to win a lawsuit if it goes to court for defamation or breach of contract or whatever. That's the position Ole Miss is taking. So
which is very hard against a public figure. Against a private citizen, traditionally, It's a little bit easier, but against a public figure, I'm just explaining this to the listeners. If it's very hard to claim that in defamation and succeed. Correct.
Well, and look, I would also agree that trying to prove damages in this case is difficult. I'm not a legal expert, but to say that Houston Nutt has been cost money or his reputation, then I don't know that's a hard thing to prove. Okay. But I also think that it's very clear what Ole Miss did, and what they did was wrong. And Houston Nutt was not the focus of this notice of allegations, even the first one. And I think pretty clearly there was a public relations campaign going on by Ole Miss to try to make people think that, because it was coming up on signing day. And that was wrong, and Houston Nutt was the collateral damage there. And if I'm Houston Nutt, I'm not happy about that. And I think an apology is not only warranted, but well-deserved. The position they're taking to dig in and not really acknowledge that, they're doing so in some ways waging sort of a guerrilla warfare that I don't know that they fully understand the implications of at this point. Because, again, they don't know what they don't know. And Tom Mars is on a hunt to find out.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to find. And that's really, we keep going around it, and it's not you, it's just kind of the problem in itself that they're trying to find information.
It's leverage. He's trying to find as much information to make Ole Miss look bad, to the point where they put up their hands and say, enough,
do you think that this would have been settled had Ole Miss apologized?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So with that being said, now it's become into the vindictive part of it, because let's say Ole Miss got together and just said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to apologize. We're going to clean the slate." Do you think that would end this all right now?
It's too late for that. I think now it's the money. It's the money thing.
Right. So it becomes an ambulance chasing thing with Houston Nutt, is saying, "Hey, listen, the day has passed. Now pay me." And that's why I said I'm trying to figure out if Houston Nutt, a man himself, is sitting there going, "Hey, you know what? There's a disgraced coach out here in Hugh Freeze who there was a number that led to his resignation, but I want to take it even farther. That's why I'm trying to understand, because we've gotten to the point where the pound of flesh was Hugh Freeze has been fired. He'll no longer coach in the SEC probably. I don't know where and when he will coach going forward, but now it comes across, and I may be completely wrong here, but to me it comes across petty that Houston Nutt goes, well, I didn't get my apology, so now I'm going to find as much stuff so I can get paid. And I think that is where I kind of lose it with Houston Nutt.
Yeah, but I really don't think Houston Nutt set out to get Hugh Freeze fired. I mean, that wasn't the intent. I mean, look, when they started this investigation into the phone records, they weren't expecting to find a phone call to an escort service.
Right.
That's not what they were looking for phone calls to media members,
right?
Because they were trying to make the case that Hugh Freeze and Ross Bjork were calling media members, and then those media members were subsequently tweeting and writing things about the case that implicated Houston Nutt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they were looking for. This escort thing, that was just blind luck. I mean, there was no belief that they were going to find anything like that.
This is what they were. Yeah, they were searching for sunken treasure. They just found the chest somewhere different than they were searching. Basically, that's what happened. So it's a crazy story. You have been boots on the ground with it. Follow him on Twitter at Dan Wolken. I appreciate the time. And yes, in between sets, I always enjoy you firing off the tweets. It's always fun stuff. We'll holler at you soon, because I'm sure there'll be more of a drip of this story to come out over the next couple of weeks, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
All right, bud. Thanks, man. There he is, Dan Wolken, USA Today. More of your phone calls coming up next if you want to react to that. 855-242-PAUL. That's 855-242-7285. Peter Burns in Campus Conversation Week with Paul Finebaum.
Can't answer that.
That was a little remix version of Nick Saban.
I can't answer that.
There it is again. That needs to be a new drop here on the Paul Finebaum Show.
I can't answer that.
Thank you. What am I going to have for lunch tomorrow, Coach?
I can't answer that.
Huh. You think Houston Nutt's going to drop this lawsuit?
I can't answer that.
When are you going to retire, Coach?
I can't answer that.
Is Paul Finebaum really getting hair transplant surgery right now?
I can't answer that.
855-242-PAUL. Peter Burns, Mark Kubiak, John Hayes. The whole crew is here, minus Mr. Finebaum. You can hit us up on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN, or the show itself at Finebaum, part of Campus Conversation Takeover this week. Make sure you download the new podcast. It's the old championship drive is turned in to Campus Conversation. A lot more of this stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more fireworks coming up. Let's go to Knoxville, Tennessee. Preston, thanks for joining Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum. What's up?
Hey, Peter, how's it going, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing great. Really like the show. I think this is the first time I've called in, and I just wanted to really quickly say that it sure was fun beating Florida and Georgia last year. Really looking forward to doing it again this year and surprising people and winning the East. But the reason that I wanted to call in is because I'm an attorney, and I wanted to just call in and defend the you've used the word ambulance chasing a couple of times, or the phrase, and I just want to make sure that you understand that really applies to plaintiffs' lawyers who kind of chase ambulances just to see if they might be able to generate a case. And I don't think that is in any way, shape, or form what's going on with the Nutt case.
Okay.
I mean that is a clearly legitimate lawsuit. I mean, if the allegations are true that the AD and the coach were running down the former coach and claiming, especially incorrectly, that he was the subject of the investigation by the NCAA, that's kind of a big deal. And I don't think that it's too difficult to foresee that it could have significantly caused monetary damages to Nutt. I mean, I realize he's a private citizen now, but, I mean, if, for example, he wanted to get into coaching or he wanted to get back into administration and serve as an AD, I mean, how much more difficult would that be with the press and other people incorrectly reporting that he's been the subject of an NCAA investigation?
Which
really
Houston Nutt hasn't been, from what I understand. I mean, I can't remember a coaching job that Houston Nutt has had since 2011. And so, I mean, I look at other coaches that have had opportunities to get back into the game after being fired or resigned, like Houston Nutt did back in 2011, and they had opportunities to do it. And Houston Nutt's, 5-6 years out of the game, and now says, oh, well, because of what was said to me 6 months ago, I'm not going to get that opportunity. That's where I kind of find it interesting. And Preston, I want you to answer this, but that was where I say I understand it. A man trying to defend what he has to say, I totally get it, or what has been said about him. The question I had is what does the number to an escort, or maybe a burner phone that may have called more of these numbers, what does that have to do with this case? That's where I find the disconnect.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I get back to the idea that he might not have damages, and you mentioned he's not coached since 2011. Well, Fulmer hasn't coached since 2008, but he was just rehired by the University of Tennessee in an administrative role. And I mean, if that were something like that were something that Nutt wanted to do, that you could imagine that would be much more difficult with that kind of allegation hanging out there. And as far as the burner phones, in Yuma, Arizona or whatever, I'm not as up to date on that. And quite frankly, I don't know what you're talking about, but if it's a good plaintiff's lawyer, like I'm sure Nutt has, he's going to apply the maximum amount of pressure, especially if he thinks it's a legitimate beef that his client has. And I think he's just doing good lawyering. And I kind of dispute any type of notion that there's ambulance chasing going on there.
There you go. You see, Preston, thank you for the phone call. I told you earlier today I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. Just, prove that you have a point. And I wanted to say that. I mean, Coops, that's how I see this whole thing, though, on how it's progressing here in this case.
Right. Houston Nutt's not getting a coaching job, not because of what was said, because of his 135-96 record. And he hasn't been in coaching since 2011. I mean, he could get something. He's got a good job on TV. I mean, that's why we know who Houston Nutt still is. That's why he's still relevant.
He's still in there.
Right, you still see him. So I don't think he's trying to go for a university job. If he was, he would have probably gone for that right after he got done coaching or soon thereafter, not gotten into television.
It is, what did you say? Are you excited about the Egg Bowl this year?
It's going to be the best rivalry game where the combined losses are 8 total.
It might be the case, and guess what?
But it's going to be national news.
I'm excited about the Egg Bowl as I am about the Iron Bowl this year. Right. No lie. That's not a lie. Mark Kubiak, John Hayes, birthday boy, Peter Burns sitting in for Mr. Paul Finebaum at 855-242-PAUL, where your phone call is coming up next. It's the Paul Finebaum Show. Hour number 1 flew by. Peter Burns in the big host chair for Mr. Paul Finebaum. Hit me up on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. We've been talking a lot about the Houston Nutt suit down in Ole Miss, whether or not I think Houston Nutt's kind of going a little bit over and beyond, almost kind of like ambulance chasing. Taking all of those calls. We've also got some footage coming in, or actually some audio from my interview with Coach Nick Saban. Aaron Suttle's going to join us in. Actually, I tell you what, we're going to Aaron right now because Aaron, I want to play this this sound that we have. Aaron Suttle's from Tuscaloosa News. This is go ahead and play what Nick Saban said on the show yesterday.
Well, I can't answer that. I think that you're 100% correct in the fact that. Jalen was a true freshman quarterback who won the team, won the job over some other older, more experienced players, and he did a phenomenal job all year long. I think if there was a mistake, it was that we were probably, as coaches, a little risk-aversive in putting too much on him in the passing game, thinking that it would be difficult for him to be able to manage those decisions. And I think in the end, when we played the good teams in the end in the playoffs, we would have been better if we'd have had a little more balance on offense and we could make plays in the passing game. So that became the number one goal for Jalen in this offseason is, to become a more efficient, effective passer and to develop confidence in being able to read in the pocket and make good throws. And he's made tremendous progress at that. And, it wasn't his fault last year. It was our fault as coaches because we were risk aversive. We didn't want to put him in a situation that might not have been good for his development, but in the end, I think that was our mistake.
And also the mistake of Lane Kiffin acting like the petulant child he was the week after Washington, but that's a different story. Aaron, what is the quarterback situation expected to be down in Tuscaloosa this year?
Hey, Peter, let me first say that Nick Saban is maniacal when it comes to dissecting why he lost. And I've looked at this, I've studied this. He says it's a mistake. I completely disagree. When you had arguably the best defense in the history that Nick Saban's ever fielded, with a powerful running game, that was the correct way to handle a true freshman quarterback. I think you can call it risk aversion, and that's true, but I also think it was the correct way, and guess what? Even being one-dimensional, they came within 1 second of winning the national championship. Who's to say if they hadn't opened that thing up earlier in the season, how many times would LSU have turned him over in Tiger Stadium in Death Valley? They were playing to their strength, and it worked up until the very last second of the season. So I disagree with Nick there. I think it was the correct way to handle it. As far as where the quarterback situation is, it's Jalen's job, but they have absolutely no experience behind Jalen. So it's absolutely it's going to be stressed that Tua Tagovailoa is going to have to play. Whether he gets to play against FSU, who knows? But he's going to be playing the second week and the third week and the fourth week. He's going to have to because they have literally no experience behind Jalen Hurts at quarterback.
There are certain things that I feel confident about here on July 27th. One, I think Auburn goes into the fake Death Valley and beats Clemson. I think Florida whips up on Michigan. I think Georgia embarrasses Notre Dame in South Bend. I don't know if I'm 100% behind Alabama beating Florida State. Talk me off that ledge right now because I'm trying to get to that point. I'm not going to lie. I'm an SEC apologist. I got no problem with that. It's the best damn conference in all of the history of college football. But at this point, I have a hard time looking at it and saying with major conviction that Alabama is in a better spot to start the season than Florida State is.
Well, I think you're handling it rationally, objectively. I don't know, unless you're a rabid Alabama or Florida State fan, that you can say that one team is objectively better than the other. I just don't. And if you do, then you know more than I do, which is congratulations. There are a lot of people out there that know more than I do. But I know Florida State's got issues on the offensive line. I don't know enough about DeAndre Francois. I need to watch some more film on him. My sense is he's a little bit like Jalen Hurts. Don't know exactly what you're going to get from him.
How he battled back last year in the second half against Ole Miss was nothing short of unbelievable. I mean, literally, it was like they played NCAA football on the PlayStation 3 and they changed to it beginner level strategy because he just absolutely killed. Now, everybody did basically kill Ole Miss in the second half of games, but that was unbelievable what he was able to do.
Yeah, he's a guy that's not afraid to stay in the pocket and take a hit and deliver the ball. My questions come because I think Alabama's going to be, I'm not going to say unstoppable on offense, but they're going to be really, really difficult to stop on offense. And if Jalen turns it on, good luck. If Jalen turns it on, they will be unstoppable on offense, given all the weapons they have. But I do have questions about the front seven on defense. I know they recruit well. I know how well they develop, and I know the history of Alabama's defensive efficiency the last 10 years. I get all that, but when you lose six, not just middle of the road defenders, I'm talking six difference makers, and you can throw Eddie Jackson in there to make it even an odd seven. They're going to take a step back. Does that mean they're not going to be great? Absolutely not. But they're not going to be next level good like they were last year.
Aaron Suttles from Tuscaloosa News, my guest here. Peter Burns filling in for Paul Finebaum. Last question for you here, Aaron. We got to roll. But what is this offense? What should this offense look like? Right? I just heard from Nick Saban say, and you rationally pointed out, hey, listen, that was the right offense for these guys last year, and that was in kind of playing it close to the vest. That's with Lane Kiffin. I got to imagine it's even going to be more so this year with Brian Daboll, the new offensive coordinator. I mean, what do you expect this offense to look like with him calling the shots?
I think it's going to be wide open. I think there's going to be more involvement of the running back side of the backfield, creating mismatches on linebackers, kind of like what you see from the New England Patriots, that kind of style of offense. I think the tight ends will be more involved than every Alabama fan that ever wondered what happened to O.J. Howard is saying, oh, now you use the tight end. But I think that's it. And I'm telling you, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley was good last year. He had 70 catches for 700-something yards, but they didn't utilize what he did best, and that was a deep ball because they didn't have a quarterback that could get him there. Jalen took the next step in A-Day, but A-Day in a spring practice isn't live. He can't get hit. But I expect, with all those running backs, with I think an upgraded right side of that offensive line and all those running backs and all those receivers, Jalen running the ball, if he even just masters the intermediate passing route, good luck. Good luck stopping him.
Aaron Suttles, last question for you real quick. LSU, Alabama, give me the early final score prediction.
Oof. In Bryant-Denny, I'll go 24-10.
There you go. 24-10 Alabama or LSU?
Yeah, Alabama.
Okay, that's what I thought. Hey, great to see you. Get the voice ready. We'll do some karaoke soon, all right?
Sounds good, bud. Take care.
Coach, you just heard that.
What's up, Pete?
Aaron Suttles just said Alabama 24, LSU 10 in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Your rebuttal, kind sir.
Alabama fan. I expect him to say stuff like that. Man, I'm going to tell you something, man. They couldn't score 20 points last year. We're going to be even better. They couldn't score for 10 points last year. We're going to be even better this year. So how you get 20? And then we're going to be able to score. We didn't score last year. We're going to score this year. Man, you asked me at the end of my statement yesterday what I thought the score was going to be. I couldn't answer because we got off. I don't think we're going to lose a game, Peter. And I'm being straight up honest. I don't think we're going to lose a game this year.
Coach, what time do you wake up in the morning?
I wake up about 5 o'clock. I'm ex-military. I get up every morning about 5 o'clock.
I tell you what, I want you to come here to SEC Networks, and I want you before every single show, I want you to be my hype man. Before every single time I take the camera on SEC Now, I want you to be my get back guy in studio. We're gonna need to make that happen. You good with that?
I'm good with that, Peter. I'm good with that. As long as I can bring LSU with me, baby, I'm good with it.
Coach, thank you so much for your service. I appreciate it, and thanks for bringing some energy into the show. All right.
Okay, well, let me ask you one thing before you go, Peter.
Yep.
In all honesty, man, looking at what we done last year, man, we didn't give up any touchdowns. We're going to be better on defense. We got a 7 rotation. We didn't have that front man 7 rotation we got this year. With experience with seniors. The courts are coming back. We're going to be okay. And your honest opinion, tell me, why would you not think we got a chance to beat Alabama?
Coach, it's the passion. It's the pageantry. It's the 47 Red Bulls that you and Ed Ogeron had for breakfast this morning. I love it. I think Coach goes there in his LSU shirt, goes to a Starbucks, John Hayes, and says, give me the quintuple vanilla latte with 3 extra shots of espresso. I love the passion.
Coach is the man.
Coach is the man.
He's a tad crazy thinking LSU can go 12-0 this year.
Hey, listen.
12-0?
I go back and look at LSU and when they won national championships. Nobody thought Matt Mock was going to be an unbelievable quarterback, won him a national championship. Nobody thought Matt Flynn was going to be the end-all, be-all. They won a national championship. Danny Etling with Matt Canada? You never know. Let's get in one more quick phone call. John Michael, Jason, Bama Hater, and Jonathan, hang tight because I got to go to Jeff in Chicago. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Hope the summer's been well.
Oh, God, it's going great. I love it. I feel like July is the Saturday of the year, And I just want to add that it was my birthday 2 days ago.
Happy
so I'm
birthday.
kind of in the club. Thank you. I'm kind of in the club with you guys.
Perfect.
Hey, I got some football stuff for you, but I saw on Twitter you were playing up at Whistling Straits this past weekend, huh?
It was unbelievable. I went up there with McElroy and Jordan Rogers and a couple guys, and it was nothing short of fantastic. It's my favorite course in the United States, Whistling Straits. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, my wife and I are kind of Jordan Rogers fans, I hate to say, from The Bachelor. We thought he was pretty cool, but it sounds like a fun foursome. But I got to ask you, what's up with the way you button your top button on your golf polos like that? A short sleeve polo buttoned up all the way to the top like that? That's just I don't know. You're kind of de-elevating yourself.
Be
with that
transparent
look a little
Right.
bit.
Be transparent.
Yes.
What are you wearing right now?
A buttoned-up polo all the way top shelf. That's how I roll. I rolled top shelf since I was 17 years old. Went with a preppy look. I got the Bubba Watson, Jeff. That's the only thing that Bubba Watson and I have in common. We both are top shelf guys. He's one. He has 2 commas in his yearly income, and I don't. We'll put it that way.
Well, look, I'll accept that as an answer, I guess. I do feel Bubba should never be allowed to take off his visor though, because he looks like a totally different person without it. But I don't know. I guess if that's the way you want to roll, that's the way you want to roll, and I'll just have to accept it. But hey, speaking of roll, do you think that people can slow their roll a little bit on this whole Jarrett Stidham thing? Because, I know he put up good numbers and looked good in an Art Briles offense, but correct me if I'm wrong, every quarterback in an Art Briles offense has looked pretty good, but so far I feel like there's 0.0 that have played in the NFL. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, what you look at, Jeff, and thank you for the phone call. We got to run, but you're right. It's patty cake defense. That's why it's hard to respect the Big 12 in the weak defense that they play. The same thing with the Pac-12. It's hard to take a look at that conference and think this is how football should be played when you look at Arena League scores. And that really is the knock on Jarrett Stidham right now. Not does he have the capability. Enough people got burned 2 years ago with Jeremy Johnson. They thought this guy was going to be great. We saw one half of football. My God, give him the Heisman in the spring. Not going to be the case. Jarrett Stidham has more people really diving into what this kid looks like. And from the people I've talked to at Auburn, people that I talked to when he was at Baylor, people who have had a chance to study him, they believe he's the real deal. If he's the real deal, my goodness, Auburn going to go into that fake Death Valley with a win against Clemson coming up. 855-242. Paul is the phone number. John, Jason, Bama hater Jonathan. Hang on. We'll get to your phone calls next. Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum.
I can't answer that.
Can't get over it. Georgia, a possible underdog to Notre Dame. This blows my mind. 4-8 Notre Dame last year. Get out of here. Peter Burns, Campus Conversation Week here on Paul Finebaum's show. Follow me on Twitter at Peter Burns ESPN. It just doesn't compute. Auburn goes into Clemson and wins that game. I got no problem with that. I know Florida beats Michigan. I guess it's going to be the easiest 3-team parlay if I was hypothetically ever in Vegas to make that. Auburn going into Clemson, winning that game. Florida beating Michigan. I don't think they embarrass Michigan. I think Michigan has enough there that they keep it respectable. But Georgia going into Notre Dame, they're 14 points off on that. That's unbelievable to me. All right, we've been talking a lot about those games of the year. Also a lot about the Ole Miss situation that's going down. Let's go to Birmingham, Alabama. Jason, welcome in to Peter Burns hosting for Paul Finebaum. What's up?
What's up with you, Peter? I hadn't talked to you since we had the comedy conversation about Steve Martin and John Goodman back in you were hosting last time.
Long time. That's right, Jason. Yeah. Absolutely. How you doing, sir? Good.
Good. I've heard you the past couple of days. I wanted to shed a little light on this Ole Miss situation that seems to be boggling you a little bit. You keep referring back to Houston Nutt, and I'm telling you, the perspective is this high-priced attorney who is majorly successful in everything that he encounters. I guess he's Walmart's attorney or something like that.
I believe he's general counsel, and he was actually very, very successful until he had to step down and resign because of a bribery scandal back in Walmart. But yes, outside of him having to resign because of a bribery scandal, yes, I think he is very successful.
That even makes more of my point. This guy's an egomaniac. I'm sure most good lawyers have that ego-driven where they don't want to lose a case. And when Ole Miss comes in, Ole Miss, you just got out of not having to pay the buyout for your head coach. How much was his buyout?
I would I don't even know, but the fact that they didn't have to go ahead, I mean it's zero at that point.
You're saving money there. You just saved all that money. If you don't care enough as an AD who should already have egg all over his face to pay a measly $1.7 defamation of character lawsuit buyout to preserve the integrity of your university, you should have been fired 10 days ago. Ridiculous. This guy is going to dig up everything he can, like a lawyer should, and he's getting somewhere. if you don't stop the bleeding now, it's all on you, Ole Miss. It's a measly 1.7. If you're that greedy, bad things are coming.
Well, and here's the deal, Jason. Thank you for the phone call, man. I appreciate you staying on hold and hooking up with me on that. And the thing is the question is, and I get it. I mean, listen, if you're a lawyer, if you're Houston Nutt, you hire a lawyer and just say, you go deal with it. I don't need to know anything about it. That's what your job is, and a lawyer's going to lawyer. That's what they do. That's why you never want to get involved with the lawyer, right? No matter what it is, or right or wrong, the lawyer ends up winning all the money. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong, the lawyer wins the money. That's just life 101. I can give you that lesson. But the question is on whether or not that they dive into the point. If I'm Ole Miss, I don't give him a nickel. I'm sorry. If he wants his apology, he gets his apology. Because I'm being sold on the fact that Houston Nutt just wants an apology. Just apologize to Houston. Good, give him an apology. That's fine. But I wouldn't give him a red nickel. I'd make him come after every single dollar of it. Clarksburg, Maryland. John, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, bud.
Appreciate you putting me on the air. I agree more with you. I think the last two callers, I'm an attorney also, and I think the last two callers talking about the Houston Nutt suit, I doubt if either one of them has read the actual lawsuit. And if you look at it, you're talking about the lawyer from Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
You could Google it and find out his name is Mars. And he was highly successful at Walmart as a corporate attorney. That doesn't translate. Just because you're good at corporate law doesn't mean you're going to be a good patent lawyer or something. And I'll tell you what really bothers me. Calling him an ambulance chaser is derogatory to ambulance chasers. He took that phone call, okay, to the escort service, and did he alert? Who did he alert first? He calls certain media personalities who he knows have an axe to grind against Ole Miss, and he notifies them of this. And did that advance his client's cause? No. And you're perfectly correct in that since 2011, when Houston Nutt got fired, he has gotten no other job. As far as I know, he's been in contention for no job in college athletics. So it's not like Ole Miss prevented him from getting a job for all those years. Plus, what could they have said? How could they have defamed him? I mean, what he's basically saying, Houston Nutt, in the lawsuit is that Freeze and Bjork and Ole Miss called certain reporters and said bad things about him about what was in the notice of allegations. Well, you know what? The notice of allegations are what they are. If he called a reporter and said, read the notice of allegations, that's exactly whatever's in it is in it. Okay? They can't defame him any worse than what's already in it. And and besides, if all Freeze and Bjork could say is, hey, read the notice of allegations. And truth is an absolute defense to defamation. And by the way, you're absolutely right. Freeze got paid $0, but Nutt got paid, I think, about $4.5 million.
$4.35.
Okay?
His buyout was $4.35 million. He already got his money from Ole Miss.
And what's his record? And what was his record the last 2 years? Okay, what was his record? I don't think he won an SEC game his last year. So I think this. And Paul, when I was talking to Paul about this about 10 days ago, I think Paul agreed with me. My prediction on this is that it will never get past the summary judgment stage. This whole case is a nothing burger. It was only filed to embarrass Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss because Houston Nutt's upset about what happened. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but that's I think that there's not going to be anything that's going to go forward with this lawsuit, and I think that all these people are coming out of the woodwork now and saying, oh well, because of what happened with Freeze and the phone calls, that's going to make a difference. That makes no difference in this lawsuit.
John, we appreciate the phone call. It's interesting when you look at it from that level, and that's where I'm at with this whole thing. I think Houston Nutt. Hey, listen, you said that you were just trying to clear your name. I don't know if you're still trying to clear your name. I think you're trying to get your pound of flesh and a couple dollars to go along with it. Disagree? 855-242-PAUL. Going to talk to Josh Kendall of the State, get his thoughts on that as well. Take your phone calls as well. At Peter Burns ESPN is where you can find me. Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo! Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Back to the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns sitting in for Mr. Paul Finebaum. Everyone wish John Hayes a happy birthday. Send him a text. His number is 7. No, I'm just joking. I wouldn't do that to you. The amount of text messages you would get from this, it wouldn't be good. You can follow him on Twitter. What's your Twitter account?
I can't answer that.
Coach Saban doesn't have his Twitter account? All right.
John P. _Hayes.
John P. _Hayes. You can wish him a happy 29th birthday. I'll get it right this time. John and Coleman, Cleveland, Columbia, Bama hater. Jonathan, hang on. We're going to get your phone calls, but first we go down to the State. That is Josh Kendall with the State. Going to join us right now on the Paul Finebaum Show. Peter Burns in. Let's start with this, Josh, because we saw each other at Media Days. I want to talk South Carolina. But what is the talk with South Carolina fans is kind of seeing what's transpiring down in Oxford, and what's been your take as you cover an SEC school, but not in the middle of everything that's going on with Ole Miss?
Wow. Let's see. Okay, that thing's got a lot of tentacles. I think from a 20 or 30,000 foot view, I think every South Carolina fan or every SEC fan needs to think when one of their brethren gets in trouble, there but for the grace of God go I. Because let's be honest, it could be coming. Some of that stuff could be coming around the corner for anybody. So I think generally when you're an SEC school and your neighbor is about to come under the NCAA hammer, you should snicker quietly under your breath and just hope that everything works out for you. As for the rest of the Ole Miss stuff, I'm not, that's its own animal. So I think that that's one of those SEC West schools that's pretty far removed from the typical Gamecock fans' consciousness. So
Right.
It's not a Texas A&M who they play every year, or even an Arkansas who they play a lot. So I think that they're like everybody else, just kind of watching the dumpster fire.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what it is. Shifting gears, I was down there in Columbia in spring, and I left immensely impressed with what I saw from, I guess I still want to call him like an 18-year-old high school kid in Jake Bentley. I know he's not that, but with the leadership skills, and I had left there thinking this could be the most potent offense in the SEC East this year. What's your take on that?
It could be. I mean, the Will Muschamp narrative has been completely flipped. The first 5 years of his coaching career, head coaching career,
Right.
It was this guy can really coach defense. His defenses are always good. If he could ever get an offense, if he could ever get a quarterback, he might be onto something. Well, he's got an offense. He's got a quarterback. I agree with you. It could be the best in the SEC East. I think the floor for this offense is pretty good, and the ceiling is really good. But now all of a sudden, his defense is not so great. So, yeah, if he could take this offense and stick it on one of those Florida defenses, he'd still be with the Gators. But he can't do that. So you got to get the whole thing fixed, and this whole thing is not fixed yet. So I think South Carolina went 6-6 last year. I think they could go a much more interesting 6-6 this year just because they'll be more fun to watch, but not necessarily a better football team.
Probably going to give up a ton of points, and that's weird to say with a Will Muschamp-led team. I think you get Sky Moore back, but outside of that, I think that he just doesn't have his dudes in. But I think Muschamp does a good enough job of being able to kind of camouflage his weaknesses on defense that he'll be able to get it done. I think it's intriguing, the first game of the season. In looking at North Carolina State, what is, when you start looking at that, because coaches are, now that camp is opening, what are they looking for in that game? What is really the weakness of this team specifically?
Well, that first game is sort of the exact right first game, I think, for an SEC team. It's sort of a middle-of-the-pack ACC team, which gives you an exciting opener, but in general, those are the type of games you want to feel pretty good about winning. The problem is this NC State team is a terrible matchup for South Carolina because the Wolfpack defensive line is really good. And that offense's Achilles heel, or at least its unproven areas, are pass protection and being able to run the ball when they have to run the ball.
But other than that, they're pretty good, right?
Yeah, but other than that, they're fine. and that's going to be tough against NC State because Bradley Chubb can play, and they got 3 other senior guys up front who can play. And, so, I mean, that is going to be a litmus test. Regardless, South Carolina fans are feeling pretty good about the season right now. They're going to be scared to death on September the 3rd, regardless of the outcome, because that NC State defensive line is going to make things look bad at times. I'm not saying South Carolina can't make enough plays to win, but it's a bad matchup for the Gamecocks, and they are rightfully underdogs.
It's a quick interview here, but I wanted to ask you this finally. Who has a longer storied career in the SEC, Will Muschamp or Kirby Smart? Two guys that have been around this conference for an extremely long time. They know defenses. They sit there in the East. They're buddies. They're going to be battling one way or another, whether it's on the golf course or at the lake or whatnot. But when I'm hosting SEC Network shows here in a decade from now, which coach am I still talking about?
I don't. That's a tough call. I'll say Kirby Smart because his first job that he landed, I think he landed in a better spot. And a better opportunity and just a better place where it's easier to have success than maybe Will Muschamp has landed in his 2 head coaching spots. So because of just the way things shake out sometimes like that, I'll pick Kirby. But that's an interesting question. And let's catch up in 10 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Real quick, last one. Now I lied to you. Sorry, it won't happen again on this.
That's quite all. I got plenty of time. For John on his birthday, I got all day.
There you go. Josh Kendall of the State joining me on the Finebaum Show. Can this South Carolina team under Muschamp get to where it was at under Steve Spurrier?
No. And that's not you could remove under Muschamp from that sentence, and the answer would be the same. Can it? Yes, anything can happen. But let's don't gloss over how remarkable 3 straight 11-2 seasons were for South Carolina. That is not just the golden era of Gamecocks football. That's far and away the golden era of Gamecocks football. The Steve Spurrier era didn't end the way anybody wanted it to end. But that guy is a top 10, 15 coach in college football history. And so you're saying to me, you put a gun to my head and say, will South Carolina ever go 11-2, 3 straight seasons again? I'll say no.
Hey, I don't think there's a whole lot of programs outside of what we've seen in Alabama. I mean, right. That it can do that. So, intriguing stuff. Hey, Josh, thank you for the time. Look forward to connecting with you. I think that's going to be a fun team to watch down in Columbia this year. All right, bud?
Sounds good, Peter. Thanks for having me.
There it is, Josh Kendall of the State joining us. Anytime I can go to Bama Hater, I'm intrigued. What's up, Bama Hater?
What's up, Peter? Hey, man, I know that the name it sounds bad, but it's just a radio name. My buddies at work wanted me to change the cornflake, but I'm gonna have the same stuff to say about Bama as Bama Hater or cornflake.
All right,
this is what I want to know, Peter. These guys down here, where I work at, I got about 80% Bama fans. I got about 19% Auburn fans, and I got 100% Bama Hater. And I crank up the break room and out in the plant every day, all day if I can. This is what I want to know about Alabama. They brag in the off season about all the 5 stars that they get, but whenever they lose a game, I got 5,000 excuses why they lost. Now, I want to know your version of why you think they lost the championship game. I'm gonna give you my rebuttal.
I think they lost the championship game because Lane Kiffin decided to act like an idiot the week leading into the game, and it put Jalen Hurts in a bad spot, and it threw everybody into a bad situation. I mean, you can't roll to a national championship game with an offensive coordinator who's done a great job with a true freshman quarterback, then all of a sudden have to parachute in Steve Sarkisian. No diss on Steve Sarkisian. I think he's a fantastic offensive coordinator. He was going to play that role exactly how Nick Saban envisioned it. But he didn't envision having to ripcord Lane out of there, and I think it put him in a bad spot.
And exactly, I think all the onus should be put on Mr. Know-It-All, the best coach ever, Nick Saban. Let him take this responsibility. This guy got those players to 14-0, and he couldn't wait 7 days later to do what he did. I put it all on him. But I get all kinds of excuses at work. Oh, it was a pick play. Oh, the defense was tired. But they got all the 5 stars and the best defense in Alabama history, what they quoted before the beginning of the season. Now the defense was tired. I think both of those teams had the same amount of time to prepare for that game. Every time Bama comes up against a mobile quarterback and a team that's not afraid to go out on the field with them, they're going to have trouble. And I got some advice for all the SEC coaches that play Alabama. Don't come to Brian Denny or don't play Alabama in the game and expect to run the ball up the middle all game and win the football game. You have to pass against Bama and have some type of hurry-up offense. Stop playing to the strength of Bama, and you can beat Bama. Bama's not unbeatable. They're not invincible. They can't beat an NFL team. All that crazy talk, man. They can't even beat Clemson. The ACC is on top. Yeah, I'm a Miami fan. I'm going to be a Miami fan to the end. We own college football right now. We're on the top, and we should have won all three major sports, baseball, basketball, and football this year. So I don't want to hear that crap about that weak SEC. And tell Nick Saban to please stop saying he wants to play all Power 5 conferences when he's got 4 cupcakes on the schedule this year, and 3 of those are right after Clemson. I know that the people that hold the home tickets this year, they're pissed off because I would be too. And the Bama haters out, baby.
Bama hater, I hate to tell you, you said you could have won the basketball or baseball national championship. Remind me who was in that, John Hayes. Who played for a national championship? Was it Florida, an SEC team, versus LSU, an SEC team? Okay, I just want to make sure I got that. Interesting call. 855-242-PAUL. I'll respond to it. I got some thoughts on that. Peter Burns in for Paul Finebaum. Down the bowl, take off your shoes and you throw it on the floor. Dance to the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
I can't answer that.
Hey, Nick Saban knows that song. I can't answer that. What do I got? I got goosebumps right now. There's something about hearing Louisiana Saturday night, maybe a little Colin Baton Rouge that gets me fired up for football season. Let's go! 855-242-PAUL. 855-242-7285. That's what I love about this show. It's July 27th, and we don't have an open phone line to go to. I love you, Finebaum Nation. You're incredible. Columbia, South Carolina, Cleveland, what's happening?
How you doing today, Peter?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a good day today. I just want to start off by wishing John a happy birthday. So happy birthday, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Peter, I just had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just was wondering why you were so high on Auburn beating Clemson when they play each other. And I was wondering, is it because of Jarrett Stidham?
It's honestly, I mean, for Auburn, it's addition by subtraction. And what I mean by that is not necessarily on their team is the fact that Deshaun Watson, Mike Williams, I mean, they've lost so much talent out in Clemson. And it's not that Dabo Swinney hasn't done a great job recruiting. I mean, my goodness, they are reloading like an SEC team definitely would. So that is impressive. To me, I think that for the Auburn Tigers, I think that defense surprises people. Because you got to realize that it seems like the last decade, Auburn's had a different defensive coordinator every single year, right? I think it was like the fifth DC that they've had in like the last 6 years. Kevin Steele's able to stay there another year. That they're going to bring back, I believe, several of their starters on the defensive line. But more importantly for them, I think they do finally have a quarterback, and I think they have an offensive coordinator that Gus Malzahn needs to trust. And this is not about Rhett Lashley. I think Rhett Lashley was a great offensive coordinator. What I think happened is that there wasn't enough of a separation of the head coach of Gus Malzahn and the separation of the offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley. I think now with Chip Lindsey and the kind of the air raid offense that they had, you're hoping to have the best of both worlds. And I think that's something that you're able to go ahead and do.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just asking if it was about Stidham because, like, Clemson's played against some really quality quarterbacks, some good quality quarterbacks, and the last time they played against two highly touted Big 12 quarterbacks, it really didn't go well for those quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you put a Big 12. I mean, Clemson's pretty much an honorary SEC team at this point, right? John Hayes, I can go ahead and say that just
Absolutely.
the way that they're that good,
Yes.
right? That they deserve to be in this conference. We'd allow it here in the SEC.
And Florida State.
And
Those
Florida
are the two
State.
ACC schools.
Those are the two. Those are the two teams that could probably kind of cut it here in the SEC. I get that, but no. But I'm with you. What it is there is a difference in the fact the Big 12. You put any Big 12 quarterback in the middle of the regular season and put him against a Clemson defense or an Alabama defense, it'd be laughable. It would absolutely be laughable. But the difference is it's not just a quarterback. Cam Petway. They can run the ball extremely well. Kerryon Johnson is going to be fun to watch. That's why I'm confident in Auburn going in to the Fake Death Valley and winning that game. 855-242-PAUL is the number. 855-242-7285. We're going to talk a little Auburn football coming up. Kevin Sarbinski, AL.com, joins us next in your phone calls. Peter Burns in for Mr. Paul Finebaum.